Hey, it's Clay. Welcome to another League of Legends video. I wanted to do a little patch overview on patch 3.12, which was just recently released today. Not going to go through every single thing in this patch. I'm just going to kind of highlight what I think is important and cool. They did do some reskinning on Site Wars, which I think is cool. And they also have new Site Scored skins, which I think are very cool. You got to get that Soraka banana. That's definitely the best one. But I actually do play some Cassiopeia, and I think this will be a good change. Cassiopeia does have some mana issues, but I don't necessarily think that it was like her hugest problem. She's still pretty much the same champion, just kind of makes her ult a little more accessible, so I don't really think it's too much of a change. Big change to Katarina this patch. I think that this was very much a good change. I think Katarina is generally considered quite weak. She's got problems. She is one of the lowest damaging assassins out there in terms of, being able to take somebody from 100 to 0. She's very ineffective at that. She's much more well suited to being a kind of a cleanup. After the team fight has gone on for a little bit and everybody's low, then she kind of comes in and kills everybody from about half health to 0. But in terms of taking someone from 100 to 0, she struggles. And it's hard because of her reset mechanic on her passive. It makes her hard to balance. But Riot does like putting power into her ultimate, which makes sense because her ultimate has a lot of counterplay. Because it's a channeled ability, it means that it can be countered with stuns or any sort of hard CC that will get her out of her ultimate. So I actually think this is a really good change. Basically, your ultimate is going to be... Oh, sorry, let me go ahead. Oh, it looks like they picked... I'm going to go ahead and grab... We're going to take Ezzy this game. Where are you, Mr. Ezreal? Alright, anyways, back to what I was saying on Katarina. Sorry for that. I do think this is a good change. It does give her quite a bit of extra damage later in the game. So it's not really going to help her laning at all. It's going to mostly be during team fights. She's going to get quite a bit of extra damage in the late game. It also increased the scaling, which is really nice. So this is just a straight buff. There is a change in that she no longer has a cast delay time, but the channel time was increased, so a little bit of a feel change. Instead of having a little bit of a delay, it's going to start immediately, but then cast for longer. So again, giving it a little bit more counterplay, which I think is nice. And then the cooldown was also reduced at later levels. So all of these things I think are nice changes to Katarina. I don't know if this is going to like rocket her into high prominence because her ultimate requires her to be channeled. It's going to be relatively easy for, higher elos or competitive teams to shut her down. You just kind of designate somebody with a stun to take her out when she goes into her ult right away, and then she's pretty much worthless. But, she's a pub stomper. If you play her in lower elos, she can definitely do a lot of work. If you can get through a little bit of a more difficult laning phase, roam a lot, get the snowball going, I think she'll be quite strong in that regard. So, yeah, I think this could do good things for her. She needed a little bit of love, and I think this was the right place to do it. They maybe could do a little bit of extra love to her QWE, which I think in general is very, very low in terms of overall damage. But I like the direction they're going. I do think Katarina needed a little bit of love, so glad to see that. Lucian got a little bit of a change. He really, really needed this right here. His base mana and his mana regen is very low, and it's really one of his most core problems is that he runs out of mana, so you need to itemize for mana at least a little bit, and this can kind of help stave that off. Then they also changed Piercing Light so that it will lead the target, and it's also a little bit narrower. I think this is a good change. It allows you to get a little bit better results on somebody in lane who doesn't really know what they're doing. But it also allows counterplay against Lucian if you know how this mechanic works. Basically, if you're walking, horizontally to him and he fires his Q, it's going to lead a little bit. So right when you see it, if you just split the other way and walk backwards, you can pretty much guarantee that you won't be hit. So I think it's a good change. I still think that Lucian, the biggest thing he needs is a little bit of help with his ultimate. Maybe just a buff to some of the damage ratios is kind of where I would put it. But I guess it is what it is. Overall, I think this was good stuff for Lucian. I do like that Riot does kind of little baby steps in terms of buffs. If Lucian is seen as underpowered, they're doing little things to kind of bring him up to prominence rather than doing a widespread overhaul. I think that that's kind of a better way to approach balancing. because Lucian is still a new champion. He's relatively unexplored in terms of an AD carry and what he can all do. So hopefully this will kind of help boost him in the right direction. Olaf, he had a big rework. I must admit that I am very unfamiliar with Olaf. I know that before his nerfs, he was considered extremely strong. This was kind of in like the heyday of bruisers. And the thing about Olaf's kit is that he has a perma-slow on his Q, he has true damage on his E, he has tremendous sustain on his W, and he has CC invulnerability on his ultimate. And that kind of combination of just kit mechanics can be very, very difficult to balance, and it leaves very little room for counterplay. Because one of the biggest things where against difficult champions is if you just crowd control them, take him Fed Master Yi. If you can CC him, he's worthless. And so there's good counterplay there. But with Olaf, because he has immunity to crowd control, there's nothing that you can do. He's going to run towards your carry, he's going to permanently slow them, and then use his true damage and his slow to kill him. And so he kind of made him very toxic, so they had to just kind of gut him in terms of power so that he wouldn't be broken. So I think they did some good things here. They made Undertow, his axe, a little bit better. The slow percentage is increased, but the duration is reduced. So I think that means if you take something like Boots of Swiftness or Merc Treads, you can get away from him, so it's not potentially perma-slowed if you get a little bit of that tenacity. It also has a minimum distance, so it's going to make it harder for him to continually pick up those axes at close range, which is nice, so there's a little bit more time between the throwing of the axes. Overall, I think that this was a good change to kind of reduce that, helpless feeling that you're perma-slowed and there's nothing you can do. They changed Reckless Swings, they gave it an AD ratio, and they reduced the damage. So I think that's nice. It incentivizes him to build damage a little bit more than just straight tank, which I think is good. If somebody is going to do damage, they should have to itemize for it. I think that makes a lot of sense. It also has the potential to be more frequently because your basic attacks will reduce the cooldown. So even though the cooldown got raised, if you basic attack, it will actually, you can actually use it more frequently. And then they did change some things on his ultimate. Not necessarily a huge set of changes. Basically the same. So overall, I think these were good changes. Tried to remove a little bit of the toxicity from his kit, give him a little more power. He has a little bit more of an incentive to itemize for damage now. So I guess we'll see where Olaf goes. I really haven't played him a ton, so I'm not really sure exactly what will happen with him. Ryze. I am keenly interested in this change because I think Ryze got hit really hard with the last nerf, the range nerfs especially, and well as the tier nerf, and the change to Banshees Veil. All these things kind of came together to really gut him, and he has really fallen out of power. The range nerfs specifically are really difficult, and he's already kind of a short range champion, so getting within auto attack range really with all of his spells is very difficult. So I think that overall these are good changes. Just a slight boost in movement speed, which I think is okay, and the improved basic attack. Both of these things are going to mostly help his early game, which I think is nice. But then also so these aren't huge buffs. I think he still maybe could use a little bit more, but I think that if these are going, like I said before, little baby steps in the right direction, I think are good. Let's see here. What else did they change? That's kind of about it. They also nerfed Trinity Force that really needed to be nerfed because it was stupidly broken. Not really going to get into all of these things, but I think the big thing was the Katarina, the Olaf, interested in Ryze, Lucian. Those are some good changes as well. Overall, I think this was a pretty small patch, but still a good one. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you want to see more of this when further patches come out, let me know in the comment section below, and I'll see you soon. Bye.